Hello, everyone. It's time for a weekly update on astrology, of course, ancient astrology, the true traditional knowledge about astrology as it is coming from ancient observations, and also greetings from cloudy and rainy South Florida, where I am. My hopes to see Mercury after a week slowly vanish because of the rainy weather prediction. Anyway, maybe I will see him. So Mercury will be rising, however, only in the south, like South Florida, Mexico, and other countries at similar latitudes, you can imagine, South Asia, etc. Right? So, but he will not become visible in the north, not in northern US states, not in Europe. However, Uh, even like this, when Mercury makes rising somewhere, he still can influence the world more strongly. And he will make this rising in the end of Virgo, close to the main star of Virgo, called Spica, which is a spiritual star. So I can imagine the end of this month. So the expected rising is between 27th of September and 1st of October, probably 29th of September. So I can imagine this will boost intellectual activity to make people ruled by Mercury, like traders and intellectuals, and the digital world and the markets more active. And the ancient texts are saying that traders will be more successful. However, have in mind that this is probably true for Florida, Mexico, and southern latitudes, actually, right? Still, however, it can be felt across the globe. So, short introduction about Mercury rising. It will be also good for anyone who wishes to start some intellectual activity to use the times around 29th of September. Of course, if you wishes to focus on something specific to do, because Mercury rules the digital world, the markets, things related to work, health, like specific healthy lifestyles, like diets, beginnings of this sort. So if you want to know something more specific, you can have a reading with me. You can find my email in the description. And so Mercury is about to rise. In few days, the days of Mercury are starting because of this. More especially, this is starting probably from tomorrow, 22nd of September, 25. So the ancients are saying that 7 days before the rising, the days start to be ruled by this planet that is about to rise. And because Mercury is actually strong, this is mostly good now. Some improvement of the times is coming. So I'm trying, of course, to give you some positivity before generally the most topics today include eclipses and occultations, which are naturally darker because they include the light disappearing, right? The light of the moon or the sun, or as you will hear of Venus. So whatever happens, Mercury is the savior, our conscious mind, the rational thinking, and the planet that connects dots in everything. Mercury will be rising in the evening around 7:30 p.m. in the corresponding places. And in this way, he is called Hermes by the ancients. So he is a bringer of wisdom. And it's not related only to traders, intellectuals, but also to the very process of achieving more balance or negotiations. So we can rely on Mercury in this time. However, now let's go to those topics that I mentioned. Earlier this month, 2 weeks ago, on the 7th of September, there was a lunar eclipse. I made a video with someone earlier in my language, in Bulgarian, so I made some predictions there that already happened, but I believe they are still about to happen. Basically, the eclipse of the moon was in Aquarius, and it was in those degrees that contain the stars in Aquarius, representing the water falling from the pot of Aquarius. Of course, this can predict some problems with water, and an eclipse is supposed to destroy or make more problematic, so this can be a sign of lack of water, especially for the next 100 days. Well, of course, this is true where the visibility of the eclipse was mostly, and this is Europe, Africa, and Asia, mostly. However, of course, does not mean that it is not affecting other countries. So they are not writing it, however, the ancients, what they said about the water, but it's logical. That's why I'm saying it. They're saying other things. So slowly I will go there. Let's also say that because those degrees, the water in Aquarius, according to the ancients, are related to spirituality. So it's not so great a time for people representing spirituality. Aquarius is also a sign much related to USA. And we saw what happened. There was a killing of a pastor, politically motivated and connected. And this is a sign that this eclipse is about also dangers for spiritual persons. And sign of some turmoil in USA as well. Not only, however, not only. Mostly because the eclipse was visible in places like Europe and Asia. It is affecting mostly there, actually. There are two other countries, we can say, the ancients are mentioning in relation to this sign. So some of them are saying Aquarius is related to Arabia. So the next, well, already not 100, but let's say around 80 days are not so great for Arabia. And another statement from the ancients is that it's related to Scythia, or maybe in English, Skytia. So it's an ancient region that contains everything from the north of the Caucasus Mountains up to almost countries today like Poland and Estonia and Litva. So it contains Ukraine and North Russia, basically. And of course, this is not a good sign for them. I guess especially Ukraine in this case, which is the most territory there. As you'll see later, there are also other considerations for other countries. And so, this eclipse points at problems related to spirituality and freedom, because Aquarius is the basic sign representing freedom, after all. And so the problems about that will become stronger, and there will be, of course, bigger conflicts about that. So let's see, however, what the ancients are, how they look at those eclipses. So they were looking at the eclipses in specific ways, very detailed. I will, however, cover a little bit more general view from them. So basically, what happens is that if it is in the first part of the night, as it happened in Europe and up to the middle of Asia, like India, what they're saying that there is a danger of epidemics. So basically, this is showing that there is some danger of viruses and diseases. Also, another author is stating that because it's an air sign, Aquarius is in the element air, they say it will be deadly for the entire humanity. Wow. And the logic here is that it's a human shape sign, Aquarius, and also the other air signs are like that. Even Libra has some variant with a human shape in the ancients. So Aquarius clearly human, but according to some representations, of course, also an angel, even in the biblical symbolics. So we can say the good people, right? Those are like angels in a way. So well, the eclipses have their cycles, and each 18 years they go through all the signs. So now it's turn for Aquarius. On very personal level, people who are related to the eclipse, who have the degree of the eclipse close to their major astrological factors. So let's say the eclipse is 19 degrees Aquarius. This is of course sidereal sign in the real Aquarius, containing those stars. In Western astrology used tropical signs, this projects around the middle of Pisces. Of course, it's a projection, it's a name only, but in the sky, this is Aquarius. It can be observed personally. I guess many of you watched using applications and tools. You can see what is the truth. So it was Aquarius. And so in this way, these are some considerations. However, the first part of the night is related to sicknesses, right? This is what they say. So basically for Europe, Middle East, a big part of India, this must be true. However, what happens for the others, like China, one of the mightiest countries with most people, right? 1.5 billion people living in China and the surrounding areas even more. So in these places, Eastern Asia, it happened later, the eclipse, in the second part of the night. So the ancients were dividing the night in three major parts. So the second part, how it happened for this part of the world, for China, the ancients are saying that this means falling market. Falling market. In other words, this is translated as things becoming more expensive. Again, this is prediction for China for the next like 80, 90 days. We will see if this is true, right? Especially people living there. So, however, this is the ancient prediction. And so, some health issues for some countries, but economic ones for others. According to this eclipse. And of course, danger of suppressing freedom and rights, symbolized by Aquarius, suppressing spirituality, symbolized by the degrees. of the water of Aquarius, which, by the way, is also symbolically the water of life, like on spiritual level, but also in other levels. This includes, by the way, also meanings related to health and medicines. So I guess this can be translated also as issues related to the medical pharmaceutical industry. And maybe some bad medicines are coming now, or good ones are being rejected or suppressed. A lot of room here to think in this way. And so, let's see what else. I guess you can imagine, of course, the other countries related. And so also the eclipse was judged from where it started. So it started in the upper left corner of the moon and left in the down right corner. So, and they are, the ancients, I mean, they divide the disk of the moon or the sun in 4 different parts, symbolizing directions and countries. And upper left means northeast. So the troubles start from the northeast. Basically, this is Scandinavia, Russia, and Belarus, Finland, right? And then continues in southeast direction and finishes off somewhere, I guess, in the Philippines, Taiwan, Hong Kong, and the surrounding areas. So those, the beginning and the end, are showing the most problematic places related to the eclipse. So there is an opinion also that the second part of the night that was related to China and the surrounding places, the eclipse will give effects of 6 months. And even more, 6 months and 20 days. So, well, this is to say, until the spring of 2026. About health-related topics and other travels related in Europe and the corresponding places that I mentioned, it's considered to be 3 months. Basically, 100 days, the actual number. Already, 85. And so about this eclipse, you already know what the ancients are saying, actually. There is also, I missed something to say, however. There is one statement of the ancients that it will mean a release of former evils, which is a mysterious statement. A release of former evils. Let's hope it will mean good things. Right. So now you know the places, you know the countries related to this eclipse, and we will be experiencing this months ahead. Even though I am repeating, even though it was not visible in the Americas, because Aquarius is related so much to USA, I think, my opinion. But it's logical because Aquarius is the 10th house of the horoscope of the USA, which represent government and politics, right? So all those things can be related to the essence of the statements that I said about what it means in Aquarius, also to those things in USA. And there is something else. There is a country in South America related actually to Aquarius, and this is no other but Brazil. When Brazil was founded, the sun was in Aquarius. Then I guess this is bad for people who are ruling Brazil. Okay, even though it was not visible, it will give them some bigger troubles, I think. And so much about this lunar eclipse that happened in Aquarius. Hmm. Well, regarding eclipses, have in mind when they happen, they affect and afflict, according to the ancients, not only the sign where they happen to be, but also the opposing sign. The opposing sign is Leo. Okay, so let's list some countries related to Leo. According to the ancients, Italy, because it was related to the Roman Empire. Some others are relating France also to Italy. Well, it was a mighty kingdom in the past, but probably there is connection. In general, Leo also is symbolics of royalty and the mighty ones. Right. I can relate Leo also to, well, of course, Saturn and sunny places, but more specifically to the state of California. Let's just say it. So all those things can relate also to those countries. Of course, there are more countries related to Leo. This is what comes first to mind. On personal level, if you are a Leo in Sidereal, 90% of the time in Western astrology, this is Virgo, then you can feel the influence of the eclipse, especially if it is aspecting you with opposition very closely, like 1-2 degrees. Then big troubles can happen. Those things already were felt by people, actually, but still can be. The same is the logic with the other eclipses. The place of the eclipse and the opposing place are the ones that are afflicted. Okay, so this visit for the lunar eclipse, which was very important because affected and was visible in many areas of the world. Now let's talk about the upcoming eclipse. In 2 hours and a half, 2 hours around, the eclipse of the sun will happen in the beginning of Virgo. In this way, in sidereal Virgo in the beginning, it is afflicting the 3rd degree, and in Western astrology, is afflicting the 28th degree in tropical signs of Virgo, and of course the oppositions in Pisces of those degrees. However, it will be not visible in many places. It will be visible in East Australia, partly, and mostly in, however, in New Zealand and the most in Antarctic. Well, there is a competition for resources between countries, so I guess it means Antarctic will become more of a focus of negative type of competition. And other troubles can happen there, of course. But the most afflicted country by the eclipse will be New Zealand. New Zealand. So the eclipse is actually starting at sunrise in those places. You already know that when it is in the beginning, it can be an indication of overall trouble and especially health-related topics. So maybe it's again connected with some viruses, etc. Let's hope it's nothing else. When the sun is being eclipsed today, when it is eclipsed, it is also happening to be in opposition with Saturn. And by nature, the sun represents powerful people. So when the ancients are writing about eclipse happening in Virgo, they're saying that this will mean a destruction of great kings. Destruction of great kings. And they say those will be the kings of the Babylonians. Of course, the kings of the Babylonians were subdued and disappeared from history 2000 years ago, but those places are still on the map. Like today, those are countries of Iraq and Iran, by the way. However, as the eclipse is actually not visible there, I think they will be not so much afflicted. Of course, we will see. But still, there is a king associated with New Zealand, more or less, right? And we know that this is the king residing in the United Kingdom. So this can be maybe related. On the other hand, I would just say that people who are prime ministers and the ruling parties, especially in New Zealand and in Australia, will have big problems, and there can be changes happening soon, actually. In addition, it's an earth sign. Virgo is of the element of the earth. This is more like, I guess, a possibility. So it's not a sure prediction. I will just mention it. The earth is the earth. So Saturn is involved, however, with the position, which is also planet related to the earth element. And the aspect is difficult. This is bad for the rulers, but it may be bad for the land. And I mean, let's hope there will be no earthquakes in New Zealand anytime soon. Potentially, this eclipse opens the gates. However, this is not confirmed by me by observation or statistics, okay? It's just a thought. Let's see what will happen. So, also the eclipse there will be seen in some islands like Fiji, Samoa. They will be also affected. For all of them happens in the morning at sunrise. Soon, in 2 hours. I guess this is enough about this eclipse. Let's just say Virgo is also about the working class, the working people. It's about health. Those things can be really, really important. And maybe not doing well. I wonder because in the previous video I made some predictions of troubles in Asia, and Australia and New Zealand are not far. Maybe there is a possibility that this eclipse is related, showing them as places where more troubles can happen. All right, so now there was another important event, and I guess this will be the last thing today. So on the 19th of September, there was an occultation by the moon of Venus. This happened in Leo, and it happened very close to the major star of Leo called Regulus, known also as the Little King in ancient times. So there was this occultation. Venus disappeared for some time. It was happening actually in daytime, so it was difficult to observe. So because of this, the omen that the ancients are ascribing to this, I'm thinking it's not so powerful. Okay? Not so powerful, but I think it's still happening. In an earlier video that I mentioned in the beginning, I cited Omen from ancient times that this occultation means nothing else, but they say, the ancients, not me, they're saying it means rebellion. Rebellion. And actually, a couple of days before the occultation actually happened, but some days after I made this statement, rebellion started to happen around the world. First in Nepal. Later, something like that was happening in France. There is not so uncommon in the last 200 years, let's say it. But in Nepal, it was interesting. So maybe Nepal is related to the sign, Leo, I mean. However, we have to accept that this sign of the occultation will be also veiled at least 100 days ahead, and potentially for other places in the world. Like Leo is, you already know, France, Italy, California, but also Leos, as in the case of Nepal, can indicate kingdoms, monarchies. Uh, if it was happening in the night, the ancients are saying that people will sell their children for silver, that the things will be so bad, people will be so poor, and such crises will come. But it was not the case. However, based on this, I am like thinking that this indicates some smaller economic troubles. So, where this can be? The occultation of Venus was seen around the world, but not in the Americas. It was seen in Europe. It was seen also in parts of Asia, but those parts that are related to the Middle East, actually. And I guess the meanings of rebellion can relate it to the Middle East, can be related to Turkey, Crimea, Russia, and the countries close to Caucasus mountain like Armenia and Georgia. This is where the occultation kind of was better expressed. So we remain to see about that. Next 100 days, I believe it will be active. I can say even the occultation, the length of the occultation was around 19 minutes, which I think will be 19 days. 90 days. The amazing thing is started, right? Of course, at the time of the occultation, this is Venus-related people, those who are ruled by Venus, like people related to art and beautiful women, and simply those who are ruled by Venus. I mean, Venus rules their ascendants. Like if you have sidereal sign Taurus, rising, or Libra. In Western astrology, this translates usually to Gemini and Scorpio. So they already felt some troubles last days, and they can still feel this in the next 3 months. So, of course, why it meant rebellion? If you think about it, Venus is love and peace, but being eclipsed, or coated, so to say, actually, by the moon, well, no more peace and harmony, right? So interesting times ahead. Well, I hope all this was interesting for you. I'm sure it was. Expect soon more videos around the rising of Mercury. I guess I will be more active after a week. Expect some video for the next month, I guess, and other topics, whatever comes to mind. The heavens are so rich with events and topics, so I will choose what to talk about. In addition, the eclipse of Venus, one of the meanings was potential troubles for queens, female aristocrats, queens. As it was, however, not so strong, I guess these are not the biggest possible troubles, and this can translate also to just females in high positions in society will go through some more troubles. This includes their positions and health. Of course, all those eclipses and occultations, they're natural processes, remember that? So they happen for a reason, as in the case of the rebellion in Nepal, right? Okay, so wish you to have wonderful days ahead, and I will be here soon enough. Have a wonderful week ahead. Bye.